everyone, it's John Arnold here from The Practical Disciple. And as many of you know right now, I have a book out called Tips on Prayer. And in a series of 4 or 5 videos here, I want to share with you some epiphanies I had along the way as I was working and growing on prayer over the last 20 years. But also, as I was writing this book, you know, when you sit down and you try to write out what you've come to learn and understand, there's a lot of clarity that comes through. And there were some concepts that just kind of clicked in place for me as I was putting this book together. And I think some of them were a little bit unique, and I want to share those with you. Particularly today, what I want to look at is the need for evaluating our prayer life, and how do you do that? I mean, what kind of standard or criteria do you use to say, how am I doing in prayer, and what do I need to work on? So, as I was working on the book Tips on Prayer, I started recording all of the best practices that I had come across over the years. And I noticed some patterns evolving, that certain best practices, that certain tools or techniques, they seem to enhance particular areas of prayer. And what I realized was that there are kind of 5 components of a good prayer life that you can't ignore. And if you get intentional about them, not just ignore them, but if you get really intentional and proactive about learning and growing in those particular areas, you can dramatically change your connection with God and your experience of prayer. So I said there were just 5 of them. The first one that I recognized was consistency. You know, anything you do as a discipline, if you want to see the fruit of it, you have to do it consistently. There's an age-old metaphor out of personal growth where people talk about, you know, I can't have 21 meals one day a week. If I did, it would just probably make me sick. Might kill me if I'm not careful. I need to spread that out and consistently eat throughout the week. You know, 3 good meals, or conventional wisdom's now becoming that you should have 3 meals and a couple small meals or snacks in between. But you have to consistently feed your body in order for it to have a level amount of energy. It's kind of true similarly about prayer. Prayer is the life force we, eat, sleep, and breathe if we want to be closely connected with God, if we want to feel, sense, and live out of the Holy Spirit in our lives. So it makes sense that we have to be consistent. And just real quickly, one of the things you can do, or you need to do immediately, and I emphasize in the front end of Tips on Prayer, quick start guide to improving your prayer life, is that if you don't have a daily devotional time, that's your highest priority, is establishing that. That's going to become kind of the base for all the other things you do in prayer. That's not the end of prayer, that's really the beginning of it, but you got to have that as a start, and that's one place where you begin to get consistent, is honing in on creating that daily devotional time. And I have a lot of tips on how to do that. I think I have I have 8 different techniques in Tips on Prayer for just getting consistent. So that's one thing, consistency. The other thing is building, I'm going to handle 2 of these at once, are breadth and depth of prayer. You know, how broad is your prayer life? And by that I mean, do you feel like you're always praying the same things, or are you constantly only giving thanks? And that's a good thing. And if that's the only thing you did, it would be a good thing. But there's a lot of other aspects to prayer. There's one-on-one, just really raw, intimate time with God where you're pouring out to God how you love God. It's praise or adoration. There's interceding for people. Confession. To me, confession is, well, it's like it's almost like a virus scan for the soul. So there's just some examples of what I mean by breadth. How broadly are you praying each day? And then depth, I really kind of mean 2 different things by depth. Depth is both a combination of how intimately do you feel connected with God through your prayer life, but also depth is a matter of maturity. Are you growing in how you pray about things? You know, early on in my prayer life, if I were to pray for money, let's say, or about a financial situation, you know, I might literally say, oh God, I need money for this. And that's not a bad thing. But over time, my prayer began to mature to a place where I started asking for wisdom and being a good steward of what God gives me. Yeah, it's just one little simple example of what I'm talking about. So we have breadth and depth, and I started by mentioning consistency. And then here's the big one. This is the one that I find people having, beyond a shadow of doubt, the most trouble with right now in our culture. And that's focus, is being able to keep their mind in the game when they're sitting down before God. And I don't know about you, but I can go into my prayer closet and I can have all the greatest intentions in the world. And if I don't have a plan for how I'm going to focus, I probably have the most ADHD soul on the planet. My mind just starts hopping all over the place. I talk about having monkey mind because my thoughts just start jumping around like a bunch of crazy drunken monkeys in my head. So getting focus is really crucial to your relationship with God. Let me put it in these terms. Imagine going out to dinner with someone, or every time you got together with them, you'd start a conversation, and halfway into it, they're staring off into space, and they're thinking about something completely different, or they're picking up the cell phone, and they're just checking out on you and going someplace else. Well, think about your own prayer life. How often do you go to pray, you have great intentions, and you just check out? There's a lot of ways you can address that. That's a very, very solvable problem. And it's a matter of engaging both your mind and your body. You can engage your body in prayer. So it's one of the things that a couple things that I cover in Tips on Prayer is how do we do that? How do we get the mind fully in the game, get the body fully in the game of prayer? So, back up one more time. I need that repetition. I don't know about you all, but consistency, breadth, depth, focus. And the very last one, this kind of wraps it all together, is how do you integrate prayer in daily life? Prayer's not, I don't believe, intended to be in a box over here and life over there. And we go into our prayer closet and then we come out into the world and those things never meet. Prayer closet is a great place to hone our ear for listening to God by shoving all the other voices out of the way. But we've got to get to a place where we carry the peace and the profound connection we have with God in that prayer time into our daily life. And I'm going to call it quits now. That covers the 5 aspects of prayer that I call them 5 pillars of life-changing prayer, because I think as you strengthen each one of those, that's what it does, is it supports a prayer life that changes you. It doesn't just change you, but when you have a powerful prayer life, it starts changing everything around you. So I hope that's helpful. I hope somewhere in talking about each of those 5, you started to go, ooh, I could see where I need to work on number 2 or number 3. Or if you're like me when I started on this journey, it's like I need to work on 1, 2, 3. Oh yeah, 4 or 5. I need to work on all of them. I don't advise you do that. I would just say, pick 1 or 2 things to focus on and get some wins there and then move forward. So that's all I have to say to you today about evaluating your prayer life. If you haven't been tracking what's going on, just real quickly, my book Tips on Prayer is on Amazon.com right now. If you're watching this between September 22nd and September 26th of 2012, Tips on Prayer, a quick start guide to improving your prayer life by John Arnold. It's online as an Amazon Kindle book. Now I know some of you immediately going, how do I have a Kindle? That's okay. You can go to Amazon. They have free reader apps, and you can read it on about any digital device known to man. You can read it on smartphone, tablet, pad, computer. You can just read it right online. So in short, if you're watching this video, you can download not only my book as a Kindle book, but there's all kinds of great books out there to enhance your faith. So that's about it. I'll tell you what, I'll put the link below. To make life really easy though, Amazon has these long, crazy, nasty looking URLs for their books. On my sister website, if you want to call it that, I have a website called tipsonprayer.com. If you go to tipsonprayer.com/info, you can find out how to download a reader there. You can find out how to download the book, and you can read a lot about what's in the book. So I hope you're enjoying this. I have a goal of getting this out in the next 5 days to 5,000 folks. We're, nearing the end. You can hear the bugs going crazy because it's about to be dark here, but we're nearing the end of the first day, and I think right before I started the video, I had something like 308 downloads, and I've gotten a lot of great notes from people who are appreciating it. So I think it's a book that will benefit you. Everything in it benefited my prayer life. I look forward to seeing you in the next video, and I hope God blesses you to have a stronger prayer life daily. See you in the next video. Bye now.